Uh, Good day to us all. I'm here to make a presentation on participatory guarantee system, trying to break down the scopes and procedures for getting certified via the process of participatory guarantee system. And I'm doing this on behalf of NOAN, and that's the Standard and Certification Committee, of which I lead. And my name is Alawal Abdurrahman Temitope, the Chairman, Certification Standards Committee of NOAN. So just to brief us on what organic agriculture is all about, and then why we are running this through the participatory guarantee system, just give us an overview of this. Is why I'm making this presentation. This presentation is going to be divided into two parts. That's the part one and the part two, where we're giving an overview and then the nitty-gritty of the breakdown, which can be found in the second presentation. So I hope we follow through and then understand it from our own perspective, and we hope this makes it beneficial to us all. Thank you. Yeah, so all over the world, there has been a consistent increase in demand for organic agricultural-based products and produce. This cannot be far-fetched from the challenges being faced with conventional practices based on the producing a couple of these agricultural products that's ranging from the feed technologies, the GMOs, the inclusion of pesticides and then insecticides and the likes, that kind of like alters the quality of our soil, of our environment, and sometimes even the health of the people who consume them. So because of this, a number of people are growing in their numbers, in trying to ensure that what they consume or what they use found to follow a certain level of importance, that we have a system, the trust system in that procedure for organic, and then when people are, when people are selling it, they're earning the exact income. And then, so basically, this is why we are doing so this is one of the things that the participatory guarantee system of certification is designed to actually achieve. But before we go into that, we'd like to and then of course define it based on the principles of what organic agriculture stands to achieve, and then in the hopes that once this is achieved, one can actually organic its principles, which kind of like leads to who are able to achieve this top principle of ecology, principle upon which the organic agriculture lays its foundation, like the principle of health. Probably want to explain that it controls it regulates the health of the soil, the health of the animals, the health of the people who consume them, the relationship with them and the plants. Want to ensure that there's a healthy status around it all, and then so that probably going to control quality of the air, quality of the products that are being used internally and externally. This actually follows that principle. And then we have the principle of ecology, which also explains that the relationship between the environment, the people, the animals. There has to be some sort of almost where we show that there's a to follow the first principle of health, and then it's actually beneficial to to not just the human being, but one is not being toxic over this. And this is a principle that has to deal with the people who are actually the growers, the farmers, and everyone who is in that and has a fair share of deals. To be sure that one is not being cheated over the other, and be sure that there's an equity involved. Fair enough. And then we have the principle of convention, which means that we don't just in the process of trying to caring to our animals, to our plants, to ourselves, to our traders, and then to everyone. Care in this sense just means that we have to be able to put the right systems in place, to be sure that we have good engaged with staff and all of that. So there's why we do organics, and then why so on the standards we can actually begin to have how we intend to actually execute all of these things. But from the foundation is what actually forms the practitioners. We want to be sure that our standards project a couple of all these principles as a foundation. However, this doesn't mean that this way ends. Some of us we actually want to add a few more things that actually regulate trade. Sometimes actually what regulates that reflects the relationship of our environments, our governance structures and the likes. But basically, it's expected that if we'll be practicing organic agriculture, I want to be labeled. And then this that organic agriculture, because it's seen as something that can help restore balance of the ecosystem. It's seen as a process or as an option that needs to be adopted, globally. And fortunately, many people are recognizing this need and are connecting with it, and the results are actually being shown. And this is probably why a whole lot more people have been engaged with it. And this is why we actually want to encourage these mediums and those who are practicing it, want to encourage them to keep up with the practice of doing that. And the challenges of we have many more people who don't practice, and take up, systems to the market, by selling what is not organic as organic, and sometimes even the producers themselves, after all the rigorous activities of producing organic, can still not sell, in accordance to the stress they must have done. So which means that we need to have a procedure or a system of verifying like that. So we have this set of producers who are matching the efforts for efforts, so to speak. So what's participatory granting system, amongst other systems of verification. But for the sake of this presentation, we'll be discussing more on participatory granting, discussing on how it works, and then the principles behind it, and then the key elements and the likes. And then the part 2 we'll be discussing more. So, but just to have an overview of this is why we actually have this foundation. So PGS is a model of authentication and certification. So participatory granting system is a quality assurance initiative that builds its integrity, trust, and capacity through the active participation of stakeholders, including producers and consumers. According to I1, participatory granting systems are locally focused quality assurance systems. They certify producers based on active participation of stakeholders and are built on the foundation of trust, social network, knowledge exchange. So this said, bodies and structures regulating practices are guided by basic standards of practices that captures the scope of organic agriculture and other factors that project connecting market needs, just as we said earlier. In this case of NOAN, we use the Organic Agriculture Standard in Nigeria as our working foundational document. So I'll be showing us some of all these documents that we use as our own standard of operations, in ensuring that we have organic practices. However, the process of control, to be sure that we use that we have the model of control, farmers, whereby people are able to farms, via their controls, their activities, and then this follows. And so it requires a bit of a procedure, a bit of discussing this in two folds. That's on the first one, we'll be discussing about what makes a PGS PGS, what's the functional structure around it. And then on the part 2 is the NOAN's item of operations, how we actually design all of these things to actually serve the people that are engaged in organic agriculture. So on one hand, we'll be discussing about the shared vision, the participation, the trust building, the learning process, the transparency, and the horizontality involved. On the documents and the scopes now, we have the shared vision, which means that one of the key factors, key elements that makes the participatory granting system function is having a shared vision, where we have a group of people having collective reason for coming together, coming to operate together. We have, each stakeholder organization of the group can adopt its own vision of PGS designed by NOAN. So because we have a standard in NOAN, so it's expected that people, producers as a group can actually come together to have like a reason for engaging in a particular kind of market or a particular kind of environmental structure or an NGO or defined. And based on this definition, the procedures are built on, but because of the foundation, no one creates that balance of saying that at the barest minimum, this is what it should look like. But others have the ability to build on that foundation and then build something even more robust and more engaging. So this shares, so everyone who's engaging in it would have to connect with that shared vision. So the shared vision is a very key element of the PGS. Producer involved, or every stakeholder, has to have a function, has to have a role. So participation in the sense of like that, everybody has to be there for the group meetings, everybody has to be there for the assessments, for discussions, for the designing of how it should look like, feedback mechanisms and the likes, So participation is very key, and every member of the PGS group is expected to be a participant and not just be trust and fairness. So another key elements in PGS is that because they're doing a group of people, so there has to be trust. Even within the group is laid on the foundation of trust, and then of course trust between the groups of producers and also the markets as well, because the relationship has to be such that we can actually trust ourselves and the market can actually trust us. So trust and fairness is very important in the, as one of the key elements of the participatory system model. So some of this, and then transparency and horizontality. So what this means is that because I would say if you're feeding a blind man a groundnut, it's better you whistle, because in between he's blind, he can't see what you're doing, so he might be thinking that you are eating the groundnut. At the same time, you as well, you're not doing that. So it must be clean and clear, even though you're not doing it, just to ensure that okay, this person is not thinking things and then just project activities that would making trust that you're not doing what he's thinking. So that's why, but in this regard, coming back home, in this regard, what it means is like that it's not enough just able to demonstrate that you're being trustworthy and that you're doing the right things, even if nobody's watching you, but you have a system to actually validate, although it has its different levels and capacities. But from the PGS system, we try to make it at the barest minimum, just to be sure that at least the basic information are being captured. Basic things of the record of the producers, and then of course another method of what we, this is from the producer levels, and of course from the administrative level also. We also want to take care. We have farmers who are doing the right thing. We probably want to put up a system to project them to the world, to let them see that we have a group of people who are committed to this, and because they're committed to this, we have a lot of buyers who also need that service, and they're able to actually have a very healthy exchange. And this is what transparency also does. And in horizontality also means that because everybody's having almost equal participation and equal opportunities, to engage and then facilitate whatever is being done, within the group. It's always a learning curve in every sense. There's always a need to get retrained comes up. Sometimes this could be the way we know how to read, but in the other groups, they develop a system of making it the process a lot more easier. And of course, because we are regulated by organic standards, we have to be sure that we are not going overboard with our practices. So this is why we have to be sure that we are learning the right things. That the learning process would actually come from within the group, come from other groups, could come from other communities, could come from the government agencies, could come from the apex organizing structure of the participatory granting system. It could be from from systems that we can verify that actually adds up to the quality of the knowledge of the groups. And then because like I said, the idea of this is to actually make it a whole lot more easier for practitioners, more productive in their operations. So I believe with this we've been able to express a bit of what it means to run a PGS system on the elementary level. That is just to have an overview of what it means. On our next section, we'll be discussing more about the documents needed and why the documents are needed and what the documents does, in setting up a participatory guarantee system, for consumers to engage with. We have to be clear from this again is that this system is usually designed for producers who live in communities, like in close knitted communities where they can easily access themselves. They have like a continuous, easily go to farm B without having to spend so much. The idea of a PGS is to make the procedures of certification very cheap and very efficient at the same time. And we know that for this to happen, we have to the point where the objective of building trust is compromised. At the same time, we have to be careful not to be too strict to the point where the idea of even being verified, becomes overbearing. So, and that's why, this has been, so the participatory granting system is the refined model just to be, just of assurance, so documental procedures. And this is to engage those who have, probably for those who are in cooperatives, who are in different groups, or who have, can actually engage with groups. So I believe we're able to communicate so to the committee. Please, you can follow the link below to pass your comments, pass your further engagements going forward. In absence of anything, now refers back to the next presentation to follow through with the actual procedures of getting engaged with one on PGS guarantee system. That's